it and talk about it, and you realize that other people aren't open to it, you learn to just shut it out. And that's what I did for most of my life. But what was interesting is that when you shut out your psychic ability or a gift that you have, it appears in another form. So for example, for me, I always felt people on a different level because I was feeling spirit, because I could connect with energy, because I would hear, messages from the departed. I could sense and feel energy at a very, very high level. I was very much an empath. I could sense people's pain. I could feel what was going on in people's bodies. I could tell what was happening with the person. So because of that, growing up, I always felt like I had to be in the medical field. I knew I had to do something with helping others, but I didn't know what that was or where this was leading me. So I started my career as an EMT, which is an emergency medical technician. I worked privately contracted for the World Trade Center in Boston. And it was around that time that I decided to see a medium for myself. I wanted to see somebody who was using this gift, who was using this ability. I wanted to know, what it was that I was pushing away and running away from. And when I realized that this was a gift and ability, it changed my life. I realized I could help people, not just physically, but emotionally, by helping them hear messages from their loved ones.
Once you accepted this gift and perhaps even surrendered to it, did you have to take classes or find a mentor to develop it?
That is such a good question. When I first surrendered to it, keyword surrender, right? I love that you use that term. When I first surrendered to it and said, I'm going to discover this. I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to speak about this. I'm not going to hide who I truly am. The moment that I did this, all of a sudden, doors started to open. People would be receptive. All of a sudden, people were put in my path that needed my help, that needed to contact their son or their daughter or their sister or their brother. And then next thing you know, I was being, passed along to other friends, to other family members, to other colleagues and whatnot. And word literally traveled about the one who could speak to the dead. And I was only about I think I was 18 years old at the time when I first started speaking about this. And then all of a sudden, I had one person that's like, Matt, we got to get you on the radio. I have a friend who's got a radio show. And the next thing you know, a person was like, Matt, my friend is a morning news anchor and they want to have you on. And all of a sudden, my whole world just changed. And heaven just started opening up these doors. And I realized one thing. I realized that it wasn't just with me, that it's with anybody, right? When you have a gift, when you have a calling, when there's something that's meant for you to do and you align with your path, heaven starts to open doors for you. And it started happening with me. And ever since then, I have been on this amazing journey of helping people connect with loved ones.
You just said something that I'd like to touch on, and that is heaven starts opening doors for you. How do people tune into those signals and find out, what is their true purpose?
The first step is having that feeling that there's something more for you. If you have that feeling where you're like, I feel like there's something more for me. I feel like I should be doing more. I feel as though that, I'm supposed to be doing something great, but I don't know what it is. That's a sign from heaven, because your soul was born here on this earth with certain gifts. And what's so beautiful is that when your soul is created, there's something that you can do that nobody else can. Maybe it is that you're a great communicator like you, Jeff, which is the reason why you have this, amazing podcast and people are gravitating to you to, learn information, and you're able to pull it out of the guests that you have on. It might be that you're a natural teacher. It might be that you're an architect. It might be that you're a psychic or a medium or a natural healer, right? Those gifts are literally assigned to our soul, and we're born with these gifts. And then while we're here on earth, we have to learn how to use them. Now, the tough part is that most people, because we live in this, conventional way of going to school and having to pick a career and a topic and whatnot, we feel forced. We feel like we're put into a box, and that once we get into a certain job or in a certain area of our life, that we're stuck with it. But the thing is that sometimes your gifts don't develop until later. Sometimes you don't realize what you're good at until later. Same thing happened to me. I remember my parents being like, okay, you're gonna go to college, you gotta pick what you wanna do. And I'm like, I have no idea what I wanna do. I don't have any idea about what I'm being called to do. But then heaven will give you little signs along the way. They'll put people within your life. They'll present opportunities in front of you. It could be you overhearing a conversation, meeting someone and being inspired by them. It could be that you meet a person who gets you from point A to point B, and then from there you meet someone else who gets you to another area of life. Let me explain what happened with me. For me, I had this ability where when I was younger, I would see and hear the departed. Then I pushed it away for years and years because I was afraid of it, right? Then I went into the medical field. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I wanted to help people, but I kept feeling there was something more. And then I overheard all of my friends talking about seeing a psychic and a medium and connecting with the other side. And I said, you know what? I want to go and see what this is all about. And, hearing that conversation, seeing that medium made the connection for me. Oh my God, this is what I should be doing. I'm seeing this for a reason. And you'll get that too when you start to hear that, within you. Remember, the messages come from your spirit guides, your angels, your loved ones. They're helping you along the way. When you feel those little intuitive nudges and you feel like, I'm supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be hearing this, I should be doing this. That is a message from your loved ones, your angels, and your guides that they're gonna help you on that path.
Are signs that you are on the right path like financial success or fulfillment or something else?
Well, it starts with fulfillment, right? Like when I first started, reading people and doing this work, I didn't have any money. I didn't make any money. I had, a full-time job as an EMT and did this on the side just because I loved it. And what was so beautiful is that I never, ever thought that this could turn into a full-time job. I never thought that I could, fulfill and live a passion that I made money as well. And little did I know that heaven had this whole plan mapped out for me. Well, I'll tell you that being a medium now, all of these years, I realized that many times your life path and your gifts and your abilities do align with your work. And when you're truly aligned and you get paid for what you do, right, and you love what you do, it's amazing to see how it comes full circle. For example, somebody might start out as a baker, right, just baking cookies for the holidays and selling them, feeling fulfilled, not really making any money, but doing it because they love it. And then next, it turns into a huge empire and a huge business. Well, I see this happen many, many times. The times that it doesn't happen is when we're too afraid. We're too afraid to pursue our own abilities, our own talents. We're too afraid to venture out because we're afraid of maybe being judged, not being good enough, not thinking we're going to make it. And I gotta tell you, that's why you have your guardian angels and your loved ones and your spirit guides sending you messages, because they believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself.
Matt, what are some of the biggest regrets that people have that you've communicated with from the other side?
Well, I gotta tell you, the first is not pursuing their dreams, goals, desires, but more importantly, their own spiritual gifts. I've seen many people who, as a child, they were naturally gifted with something, dancing, singing, artwork, writing, whatever it may be. And then later on, we lose sight of that, right? We get so wrapped up within work and within life that we forget these abilities and these talents and these gifts that make us who we are. And in doing so, you're giving gifts and abilities to share them with the world. You're giving gifts and abilities and talents because they're meant to be shared. You're meant to leave a thumbprint or a fingerprint here on earth. And you do that by sharing those abilities within you, right? So the hardest part is when I hear loved ones in spirit come through and say, oh my God, I had certain gifts that I didn't get to share. For example, I'll give you a story. There was this young man that I was connecting with in spirit. His mom had come to see me, and he was an aspiring rapper and music artist. And before his death, he had created all of this music, all of these playlists, all of these songs. He was a great writer, composer, all of these things. Well, he had passed away without ever getting to share that music with the world. So he had come through from the other side because he was asking his mom to finally release the music that he never got to here in this world. Well, that's the one thing that I hear over and over and over again from the spirit world is that, if they could come back and tell us one message, it's don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of people who tell you that you're not going to make it. Don't be afraid of people judging you. Share your gifts, share your voice, share your talents.
When I look at the comments in my videos, I realize that many people want to connect with their guides and angels, but they feel like they're not able to do so. What are they doing wrong?
Well, it could be a couple different things, right? First, I'll tell you that when you lose a loved one, the number one reason why I see people not being able to connect isn't because their loved ones aren't with them, but it's because they're going through grief. And the hardest part is that most people who are grieving don't know that they're grieving. You can be the most spiritually sound person, you could have the most faith here in this world, but when you lose a loved one, it changes everything, and nobody expects to go through grief. I can't tell you how many people I read that don't think that they're grieving, but they are. Grief acts as a shield, because what happens is that when we lose a loved one, we miss them so much and we care about them so much, what happens is that many times we block things out. We block out the memories of them. For example, there's certain people that I've read for that refuse to go back through pictures of their loved ones, videos of their loved ones, because they're afraid of the emotion that will come up. They're afraid of being vulnerable. They're afraid of crying. They're afraid of missing them. So they shut that out. Well, when you shut those things out, you also shut out your loved ones as well. And that's how you know you're going through grief, right? You know you're going through grief when You can't go back through pictures and be happy. You can't go back through videos. There's certain things that you can't do. Maybe it's that your son passed away and you can't get rid of his clothes, or even, unpack his closet because you're afraid of how it's going to make you feel. Well, there's a healing pain that you have to go through to help you connect with your loved ones. Healing pain is when we choose to go back through a certain part of our life that's painful. So for example, revisit old pictures or memories, or cleaning out our loved ones' belongings, right? Because what it actually does is it's a healing pain, meaning that you feel the pain, but it's from healing. What you're going and doing is that you're bringing yourself out of the day that they died, and you learn to go and to recognize them spiritually. Meaning that you get to sense and feel your loved one's presence with you. You get to figure out the signs that they're sending you and communicate with them in a different way. So to do that, you have to open yourself up to the possibility of that connection, but also heal grief at the same time.
Why do we choose to come to Earth? And if you believe in reincarnation, why do we do it over and over again?
Well, it depends. Some people do it over and over again, right? Because maybe there was something they didn't fulfill. Maybe they lived a short life. Maybe their life wasn't meaningful here in this world, right? But I will tell you this. I'll tell you that there's some souls that do stay up in heaven that, have accomplished so much, and they come back in a different way. They come back as a spirit guide, right? So, for example, somebody who was, you could call them an old soul here on Earth that achieved a lot, that did a lot, that had wise knowledge, might come back on the other side and help somebody else out who's struggling here on Earth. These are where spirit guides come from. Spirit guides are people that were just like me and you, walked here on Earth, learned life lessons, went through tough challenges, and have taken on the role of watching over someone in heaven. But there are times that some souls choose to come back to do things over, right? And I'll tell you that I haven't connected with souls directly that have told me about their reincarnations, but I've seen references to this. For example, there's a whole planning process that we go through before our soul even gets here on Earth. I call it the pre-planning, the divine pre-planning process. It's when we sit with our angels, our guides, and our loved ones, and we realize certain things. We realize, where our family's gonna be. We pick our family, we pick our parents, our friends, and I know you might be there listening to this being like, well, why would I do this? Well, it might be because of the fact that there's something that you need to learn. Maybe it is that you want to learn forgiveness. So, you decide to come here on Earth, and that's one of your lessons that you're going to be working through. Maybe it is that you want to learn to love unconditionally. So to do that, you have partnered with somebody who is imperfect, right? That you learn to love regardless. So we